Well, the Washington Post reports that the FBI may stop collecting data on police use of force. Oh, you didn't know they were collecting data on police use of force? Well, they sort of are. But why would they stop, you might ask? Because of lack of participation by the police, of course. The FBI launched the National Use of Force Data Collection Program in 2019, imploring police departments to submit details on every incident of use of force, not just fatal shootings. But police and federal agencies have not been submitting the data to the FBI as requested, which could threaten to shut the program down without it ever releasing a single report. And this was brought to light by the Government Accountability Office, which calls itself an independent, nonpartisan agency that examines how taxpayer dollars are spent and provides Congress and federal agencies with objective, nonpartisan, fact-based information to help the government save money and work more efficiently. Now, we can certainly argue about whether the GAO is nonpartisan and whether it helps the government save money and work more efficiently or not, but they have pointed out that most law enforcement agencies that were supposed to have provided information to the FBI for this database just have not done it, and that to the GAO is a waste of taxpayer dollars, this database, that is. So let's be clear on why the GAO issued their report about the failure of this FBI database. The parameters of the database were established to require data or request, because honestly, nobody really required anything. Request data representing 60% of law enforcement officers to meet a standard of quality set by the Office of Management and Budget. And if that threshold could not be reached, the effort would be shut down by the end of 2022. Why, it's almost like they knew this would happen. Anyway, in 2019, the data the FBI received represented 44% of local, state, federal, and tribal officers. And last year, the total increased to 55%, according to the FBI program's website. So far this year, the data represents 57% of all officers, and the FBI said that on Wednesday, just shy of the magic 60% number, which means that the FBI can't even publish the data that it has. In 2016, the FBI actually declared its intent to start capturing this data. Then Director James Comey said Americans, quote, actually have no idea whether the number of Black people or brown people or white people being shot by the police has gone up or down. And it was this that prompted him to conduct a pilot program to collect data in 2017 and opened it up to all law enforcement agencies in 2019, requesting the location and circumstances of every force incident and detailed information on both the subject and the officers involved. But the FBI setting a threshold of just 60% really wouldn't have provided a complete enough picture, at least not for me anyway, especially when you consider the numbers of agencies and cops we're actually talking about. Because the FBI estimates that there are 18,514 state, local, tribal, and federal police agencies in the United States, with a total of 860,000 sworn police employees. Now, I have no idea why this is an estimate and not an actual definitive count of cop agencies and cops in this country, but I bet it has something to do with whether the FBI considers entities like, housing police, transit police, and campus police as law enforcement agencies. But I'd be guessing, because this guessing thing can go both ways. But with the numbers that exist, the estimates that they are, that means that the FBI was only requiring use of force data from around 11,108 recognized agencies across the country, leaving about 7,405 out of reporting at all. That seems like far too many agencies, too many use of force incidents, too many people's lives we would never have known about, even if the FBI had met their 60% threshold. And as for the cops, they say the reason they are not providing this data is that inputting the data can be time consuming or difficult, requiring additional manpower and equipment that they don't have. The Washington Post article quotes Art Acevedo, the former police chief of Houston and Miami, who said that Houston police estimated that they would need 3 full-time employees to go through everything to pull all the data, and that probably contributed to departments deciding not to participate. Oh my God, however would they manage to find 3 whole employees that they don't need to train to kill people? Oh, the FBI, however, estimated that it would take about 38 minutes to enter the information for each incident. The GAO report also says that the Justice Department has largely ignored a requirement included in the 1994 crime bill to, quote, acquire data about the use of excessive force by law enforcement officers and shall publish an annual summary of the data required. Have you ever seen such a summary? I've never seen such a summary because such a summary has never existed. They've never done it. Isn't it weird that the legislation that put more money into more cops being on the streets had a provision in it to collect data on excessive force of those cops? Why, it's almost like they knew. If this FBI use of force database program is ended, there will again be no government agency tracking how often police kill or abuse citizens. Law enforcement officials, criminologists, and other policing experts said solid data was needed to know just how often police used force and whether high-profile incidents like the murders of Eric Garner in New York, Laquan McDonald in Chicago, and Tamir Rice in Cleveland all just happened to be in 2014, were aberrations or whether they were the norm. But we know they're not aberrations. We know they are the norm because we have lived the norm for 400 years. We still live the norm in our communities every day. Now, what I think this news will be used for, however, is an excuse to give even more money to the police under the guise of helping the police meet the requirements of the FBI to allegedly help police provide more, quote unquote, transparency. That is, if the FBI does not end this program. But ultimately, it's foolish for us to expect the very system that oppresses us through the excessive use of force and extrajudicial murders by police to willingly and accurately report the statistics for how many of those cops commit those crimes against us. Because the police will not ever police nor investigate themselves. Follow Luqman Nation on patreon.com/LuqmanNation for lots of great content.